Hello, my name is Ryan McCoy. I'm the writer, producer, and actor in the found footage movie Evidence. Here we go. I'm going to be talking pretty quick about how we made this, kind of what was going through my head at the time. So I wanted to open up the film on a fade, so to basically state that from the very beginning, from the first frame, we're not taking this found footage thing too seriously. We understand that it's a genre of filmmaking. We're not trying to pretend that this is actually real. No, we did not kill a rat. That rat was there on the sidewalk. As a matter of fact, somebody actually picked it up in between shooting scenes, and another one showed up. Very strange. So this is the first day of shooting. This was the first shot that we ever did. I'm holding the camera here. Our DP Daniel was on set that day.
This is correct.
But
Yeah.
we had to get me holding the camera because what we tried to establish throughout this whole entire movie, as much as we could, we wanted to use the mirror to show that that these kids were actually shooting it themselves. So I figured in the opening scene, this is a great opportunity to establish that. I'm a pretty shaky camera holder without a rig on, but that's Brett J. Rosenberg, talented young guy. That was his apartment that we're shooting in. We're now driving his Jeep. We're driving down, I believe, Hollywood Boulevard. From the very concept of this movie, I wanted it to be kind of an LA movie. I wanted it to show that, 10 miles away from one of the most populated cities in the country, you can be completely cut off from cell phones, people, anything. So I wanted to start the movie in Hollywood and in LA, show the city a little bit, and then when we go to the canyons. That, by the way, was a very scary scene that we shot. We didn't have permits for any of that. Cops were right around the corner for that. So here we are. We introduce Ashley, who is one of our heroines. That is, his name is Toby, and that is not Abby's brother. Abby's brother is in the scene just after this. And speaking of Miss Abigail Ritchie, there she is. Beautiful, talented Abigail Ritchie. So this opening scene, it was Howie's idea to have this kind of be stalker, creeper, Friday the 13th killer POV shot. And so then after that, unbeknownst to me, Abby and Howie had talked, and they had said, "Oh, we're gonna flash the boobs right away," and I was not expecting that. So very genuine response. Abby and I, at the time, we had been dating maybe 4 or 5 months, 4 months, and we are now married. So that was 4 years ago. So cheers to that.
I love you. And you tell me to get out.
One of the reasons I picked everybody to be in this movie, all these actors, myself included, I, by the way, do not want to continue a career of acting. It is extremely difficult. I will stay behind the camera. But the reason I chose everybody was I knew we all had a rapport with each other. We all worked together at a restaurant, and we're a lot younger at the time, and just kind of had a really good rapport. That on the right there, that's Abby's actual brother and my brother-in-law. Great line by Brett right there. I love that. So as you can see, just from scenes like that, everybody here has a really great rapport, and that's important in a found footage movie, especially in the first 20 minutes. You have to have that connection with the characters, otherwise it doesn't matter what you're going to have at the end. Nobody's going to care.
Tell me the camera thing isn't annoying.
Yeah, it's
this, by the way, is my house. Our house that we live in up in Topanga Canyon. This is the quote-unquote rich guy's house. We just picked it because it has a lot of landscape. It's not really that nice.
I'm not a dork, he's a moron.
You're secretly in love with him, Rat.
I'm secretly in love with you, Abby.
I knew it.
It's the RV we rented.
Check this out.
Fancy steps.
Yeah.
So I can tell you a little bit about how this script and story evolved. It started out with a very, very basic idea from that I came up with. I wanted to do a found footage movie. I just watched Paranormal Activity, the first one, for the first time, and said I like the genre, but I don't feel that people take it as far as it can go. They don't push the limit. I don't like the guy standing in the corner, camera drops, end of the movie type thing. So I got pretty ambitious and went out and recruited all these people and made this movie. And so the RV, originally in the script, it was just going to be they're stuck in their SUV, their Jeep or whatever, and they were going to get terrorized. But as Howie and I, talked about things and tried to flesh it out a little bit more, I said, what if we put them in an RV? That's a whole new thing that they, new scene, new set that they can be scared by, and we can build around. So, did some research. It wasn't as expensive as I thought, and we got an RV and had some great scenes come from it. So I'm gonna put my jacket on, a little cold.
Exterior, RV, day. Birds chirp, camera pans around to reveal our heroes.
Watch your step. We're here. Hello.
Well, what do you think?
Is this where we're like setting up here? This is where we're camping?
That's where we're leaving the RV. We camp about half a mile away.
How are we gonna get our shit up there?
Gonna carry it, buddy.
It's funny how a lot of people have criticized us for, or myself, for keeping the characters have the same names that we all do in real life. I'm Ryan, Brett's Brett, Abby's Abby, Ashley's Ashley. Because we were already friends and already had a rapport, it would have just been weird if we came up with, movie names. So I defend that decision. I like it. I think it plays off well. And to be honest, we're all ourselves to a degree, but we really play a kind of self-fantasized version of ourselves. And the way it turned out really worked out, I think. So that the fish, people might be wondering about that. That's from the very first draft of the script. Originally, this creature that was stalking them was going to be, they were actually going to be people and humans, and they, but they lived in the wilderness and they believed that they were animals. If you've ever seen 13th Warrior, very similar concept to that. That's the way the creature kind of looks as it does and stuff like that. So the fish was in the script that they were gonna come across this fish, this half chewed up fish, and they're nowhere near water, and just find that there's Ashley's butt, very nice. That's a real bruise too. That's not makeup. So they were gonna think that was basically the first sign that something was not altogether okay. Is that they're miles away from any land, and yet there's this rainbow trout, I think it was, that we had there.
What do you guys think?
I love it.
I mean, we can keep hiking.
That
maybe find a
log
better
got me so
spot.
stressed out. I always wanted people, because if you see where Brett's going, that was the decision. We said Brett's, doesn't like risks, so he's gonna walk around, because there was a way you could walk around and not have to cross a log. But the girls always insisted on crossing the log.
That wouldn't be roughing it.
These were done, we shot at the campsites, and then we did about
Because Ryan has a way with words.
4 or 5 weeks
And he told me it'd be fun.
shooting Tuesdays through Thursdays
Hey, listen, bro, I'm just glad you got
for the initial cut.
By the way, if this movie
and
is just a
then we
compilation
kind of
of
took
scenes me
a few
getting
months
drunk
off
falling down,
and
it's
put
not
together
gonna
an
be good, it's
assembly
gonna be
edit
boring.
and
It's a stupid
looked at
concept.
things, and
I've read a bunch.
I went to work on how else could I flesh this out and make this more interesting and more kind of high concept. And so those interviews were something that we added in later. We came back to the campsite and ended up shooting again.
Like this.
I love this scene, by the way. It's a great interaction between
And now, just put the stakes in this.
Ashley and Brett.
Stick it in the hole.
The fact that they're supposed to have this sort of crush with each other's hysterical.
Ryan's the dumbest.
If you ever meet the two of them, but so those interviews were something that I thought I could add in, and also make it seem more documentary. Like I felt like we were getting too movie-ish, we were getting too cinematic, which isn't a bad thing at all. But
Dude, I got it. I figured it out, dude. I thought
yeah, something to talk more to the camera. So campfire scene. Oh, by the way, I will state right now, not for the last time, our cinematographer, Daniel Wall, absolutely amazing. Specifically these nighttime campfire scenes. We shot in the Canon 7D. We had a few different lenses, but just his ability to take focus and his ability to capture these moments. He did an amazing job. He's a very, very, very good cinematographer. Unfortunately, he was doing a day job during the time, so we only got him at night. So anything you see at night, Daniel shot. Anything during the daytime, it was either myself or Howie or one of the girls, depending on who was holding the camera. The girl and girl kiss. That was another one of Howie's ideas. He, kind of to play to the B movie audience and whatever. I didn't care. Whatever. It wasn't my idea, but
All right, it's your turn.
it works. People seem to like it.
Do it.
I'm not gonna kiss you.
And then Brett plays off this very well, because a lot of this stuff, we all had points in terms of, I would write a scene and say, okay, we're gonna hit, moments A, B, and C. But for the most part, a lot of stuff was improvised, and because we were, such good friends at the time and so tightly knit, we could get away with it. So this was all Brett right there, and we played well off each other on that.
Abby, what's your name?
Everybody does a really good job of acting drunk too. None of us were actually drunk that night, or at least, I don't know, they may have been hiding it from me.
I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it. Get it away from me.
Oh, this is good.
What?
Oh, so my,
Where did Ryan go?
I'm sure Abby and Ashley talked about this, but
Ryan?
the gorilla suit I come out in right now.
Oh my god!
Every single movie anything I've ever done, I always have managed to fit the gorilla suit in there somewhere. Ever since high school, since I was like
Come on, you guys weren't even a little bit scared.
13. So I thought it was cool I could put it in this one. So then the sound starts, and then this is where the first time we get to really
Brett, there's so much wildlife up here.
hear the mastermind behind Mark Hailstone, who did all of our sound design on this. He's a very, very talented young
There's no
guy.
bears up here, okay? Coyotes aren't gonna come near these campsites.
Sound design's amazing. Again, with the photography from Daniel. Like, I was extraordinarily fortunate. I didn't know any of these people before I did this movie, and
That was definitely not a coyote.
No, that was a fucking coyote.
Ashley introduced me to
like a person.
a lot of these people, or at least the right people to, make the right connections, stuff like that. And so I was very fortunate to have an extraordinarily talented
It's a fucking coyote. Come on.
crew on this.
This is fucking retarded.
Ryan, just take the camera.
Evidence had a showing at the LA Horror Fest back in 2012, October 2012, and it was a pretty packed theater, and we watched it, nice big screen, and that moment right there where it was looking into the woods, and then cut to the zipper. Really got some bumps. So this right here, this was after we took our break and we went back. You know, one of the things I kind of came up with was like, hey, what if this is like this military experiment thing, and it's not these just people with, you know, bearskin rugs over their heads and stuff like that. So then we started to try to see how can we add that into the early parts of the film, and that right there was one of them. We just happened to, you know, shoot up into the trees, and then with the simple sound of a helicopter going from right to left, it worked.
I don't know what to say.
These were on the second round as well. This is actually my backyard, maybe 200 feet from my house.
Mother's maiden name.
Esterson.
Favorite
Again, another thing that, you know, where the characters are talking to the camera. And the good thing about this is that, so Ryan, my character, is away from the camera. He sets it up and they hit start and record. So you get to see like kind of a really raw, like a real moment of like who these people actually are away from Ryan, because I feel like Ryan, anytime he's in the scene or anytime he's around all four of them, he tries to like conduct them and direct them, which is one of the things I wanted to portray, because another theory, I wanted just people to think that Ryan is behind all this stuff that's going on, which works out. Great scene. I really like this scene. It's where the movie really kind of takes off, and it's pretty quickly into it.
Gorgeous, man.
What's going on?
There's something over here.
It's me on camera. We did like 30 takes of this. It was ridiculous. We should have done 3.
Right there.
It's a fucking bush, Ashley.
No, it just
No,
moved.
it fucking moved.
No, it's a fucking bush.
Oh my God! Where the fuck is it?
That's good.
You're going down there.
I came up with a lot of, or I had multiple ideas. Oh, this is, by the way, if you see the difference in the grass, you can tell this is months later. It's much drier, not as green. So this was added in later. I wanted to give that separation, you know.
You're mine, man.
You can see the distance, like they were just, we were just right there. We were, Ryan and Abby are standing right where that monster just was. They don't know what it was, so.
Playing this game with you, man.
Ryan, let's just get back to the camera.
You hear that?
This is me shooting this. That was pretty, it was, but I had the shoulder mount rig, so it's a little bit more sturdy. I wasn't just handheld, completely handheld. And then, yeah, look at the grass. It's completely dead. Nobody said anything about that. I guess people don't, you know, pay attention to that, which I guess if you're invested in the characters and what's going on, that's a good sign. I've seen this movie about a million times, so I pick up on everything, unfortunately.
Oh my God.
Brett did really good in this scene. This is another one that we added on.
Come on, turn around. Look in the lens. Tell the audience what you're thinking right now.
What am I I'm thinking I'm going back to the city, Ryan.
Well, hey, Junior, city is this way, okay?
I can't go to the bathroom? That's breaking the rules here, fool.
That direction was Brett's idea. I thought it was really good. You know, I was like, oh, you know, Ryan should just keep pushing you. And I think one of the takes, he just turned and walked off, and I was like, oh, where are you going? He was like, I can't even go to the bathroom. I was like, wow, that's good. We should use that. And so then the next few takes afterward, that was the direction on that.
You know, you call me your friend, you call us your friends. This is not how you treat your fucking friends, man. Your girlfriend's here.
Why are you doing this?
Do you have any idea what documentary filmmakers go through? Okay, if I want this thing to pay off, I've got to look at it as an outsider. What do you feel?
I'm not happy with you.
We had some,
What's going on?
so this is another one of the pickups, and Abby had already changed her hair, and so she had to, we had to go back and look at old footage and see the length and the kind of haircut and what color her hair was, and try to get it to match as possible. She'll say it doesn't match at all. I don't think you can tell
No, they were not
about the whole movie.
Sound like
But
a person.
Then campers or something. Christ, honey, we're not the first people to come up here.
Fine. What was that thing in the ravine that we just saw? Exactly.
I finally have something to talk about in this documentary, okay?
I like this come around the second time. You know, the first time we saw them, they were like happy, like, oh, whatever. Now, all of a sudden, Ryan's drilling them. See the first kind of myth fight between Abby and Ryan. You're not quite sure who's in charge in that relationship, which I really like. And then you see Brett's time. This is really good. He did really good on this shot. Also hitting his mark every time.
Who cares more about the success of his movie than the safety of his friends? Fuck you, Ryan.
Yeah. And I was standing just off camera up to the right. I mean, he was looking directly at me. You did good.
So, typical Brett. He is completely overreacting.
We had to add in this voiceover afterward to help with the plot and stuff like that. Yeah, because I thought I liked the way that we were going with how Brett was so angry at me. I think this was on the reshoots as well as at the campsite, and this is a great scene. First of all, extremely well shot. I mean, not lit. I mean, it was lit by Daniel, but with a lantern and a campfire. Very well shot. And then Brett and Ashley do an amazing job in their performance. They really, this is where that theory of Ryan secretly being behind all this really starts to flesh out. So if you're in the audience and you had that thought at 10 minutes in, you're now kind of getting a confirmation of, oh, I might be right. Ryan might be in there. And Brett came up with this story too. It was very good. I had something else written that wasn't as good. It was kind of stupid. I think it was a little pretentious. And Brett just came up with this story. And it's very simple, but it's a very believable story. I liked it a lot.
Brett. Come on.
I want it.
If you read any one of my scripts and there is booze involved, Jack Daniels is that booze.
Come on.
Fine, we'll shut you up.
There we go.
Of course, we're not showing the label or anything, or at least trying not to. And I think that was like watered down Coke.
Oh, yeah, don't make me the other one.
At least that's what the girls told me.
Fine, what the hell.
Brett, we don't drink.
So this was, God, I don't even remember what we shot in the first time we went to the campfire. It seems like most of the campfire stuff is reshoots, because this was a reshoot. And we had to elevate it a little bit.
I turn around and she's butt naked behind me, like washing me off.
Wait.
And she's like, turn around.
This is a real story too. Ashley had.
Why was she naked?
I don't
And
know.
that's what I said. I put in the script. I was like, and Ashley tells a real funny story.
Yeah, babe, what's your most embarrassing moment?
I have too many embarrassing moments to share.
Let's hear one.
Okay.
Stop hogging this, baby. I don't think you need any more. You can't have this.
She's good.
Ashley, you fell asleep in the dirt.
Maybe this wasn't on the reshoot. I don't know. Campfire was a odd time.
Honey, oh my God. Ashley. Honey, you were snoring so loud. I had to get up.
Ash, it's time to get up. Get up. Come here. Give me your hand. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm sleepy.
You're hammered.
I
think I'm hammered. I think you're hammered. I think I'm hammered.
So then we're coming up to, this is about the moment where I think most people kind of want to shut the movie off, at least in terms of any review I've ever read of it.
It's a bear.
And so that's where Mark Hailstone's sound comes in, and Brett's reaction right there. That scene right there is a pretty important one.
Brett. Brett, come on, dude, get out of the tent.
Okay, so I know you guys are all a little freaked out right now.
So
Gonna be up in a few
this
hours.
is where we have. This is that weird fun and games moment in in found footage script where you can't really reveal exactly what's going on. You just kind of have to keep the audience, try to keep them interested.
Oh, help yourself.
And
Thank you.
for this type of genre, the audience the entire time is sitting there looking like, well, why is everybody still recording? Why is the camera still going? Why is this? Why is that? So definitely the most difficult part to get over. And if you can get over this hump successfully, and you deliver
sorry,
in
lost
the
dog. No.
in the second half of the movie, I think that in terms of doing a found footage movie, I think that's what you can do best. This is Keith Lewis. He was one of Howie's friends. This was when, honestly, when I came up with the scene, I didn't really know. I didn't have the entire quote unquote history of the film and what we were going for. I knew we were going for a subterranean paramilitary experimental type thing. I thought he would be like, his character's name is Lone Wolf, so we thought, he was kind of this specialist operative that was out hunting this creature. It wasn't until I found the location that we shot all the underground stuff in, those 8 acres of warehouses. Once I found that location and got Rain to pretty much do whatever I wanted there, that really changed the ending of the movie. I'll talk more about that when we get to it. But so again, this was just trying to add more mystery and mystique to the whole thing and really make the audience question,
I just want to scan the guy to fucking.
exactly what's going on.
Why does he have a-
And could Ryan still be part of it? We don't know.
Ashley, shut up. Tell us that we shouldn't be out here.
Ryan, it's just getting really weird. Let's just go home now.
I'm not. You think I'm getting on a trail with that guy on it? No way. Ashley, I'll sleep in your tent tonight. We're leaving first thing in the morning, Ryan. Let's go. Get up.
I can't remember why we wanted Brett and Ashley to be in the same tent. I think to just play on the fact that that Ashley had a crush on Brett,
Do we think anything is going on?
which is something that was nice that we never really tried to cheese out or anything like that. It's very underlying, and they have a good flirtation about themselves. And so I think just never really pointing that out that blatantly and just letting the audience kind of think whatever they want in terms of their relationship, I think that's was a good thing.
Why do I have to keep it rolling?
Because when you and Brett and Ashley find out that this is all just some fucking prank, I want it all caught on tape.
So we're
Okay?
Idiot. Just give me the camera.
this is where Ryan's character was still thinking that it was campers, and that excuse alone, whether it was intentional or not on my part, that excuse alone, anybody who is thinking that Ryan's responsible for all this, that statement just puts it in concrete, I feel like.
Something just shook the tent. It just came up behind.
So we did, I guess I can talk about like the takes and how we filmed this. So this entire tent scene, this shot right here, me taking the camera out and me coming back inside the tent, are 3 shots. It's obviously edited together to make it seamless and look like one shot. I was really proud of Abby that night and myself when I do act and I don't frustrate the hell out of myself and I think I do an okay job. We banged out 3 takes for each one of these shots, 3 or 4 takes, and got the entire thing cut, done, put together in like an hour. And Daniel and I are actually arm in arm, do-si-doing right now. I'm holding that lantern about 4 feet out in front of the camera right now. What is that? What is that? The writing on the tree, I have to give 100% credit to Brett. we were sitting there, and I was like, what if there was something on the trees when they went and investigated behind the tent? And Brett was like, what if they were writings of what we've all been saying this entire time? Which I don't know if people would pick up on that, but it's worked, and I carved all those into the trees. Hope nobody comes and arrests me for it, but... And this looked miles away from the tent, too, and it's only like 30 feet, I think.
Did you see who it was?
And then we're back in to the tent, and the lighting is underneath now, and it's scarier and gloomier. Whereas before, the lantern was high, and she looked pretty,
Well, whatever
and
it was is gone.
Ryan was going to save the day. Now all of a sudden he comes in, and the light's underneath her. And he's lying to her, and the audience knows that he's lying to her, and she kind of knows it because he's an asshole. So good little scene. I like that little trio of stuff. Hands down, one of my favorite shots. The first time I wrote the script, I thought of this shot. And this is where the movie really kicks off into a more kinetic. It changes pace completely. The gears shift.
Let me get the camera!
Ryan!
How was that?
I don't know.
Where's Ryan?
Boom.
He went
And we
I'm going back.
crash the blacks, up the shutter speed. You know, it's kinetic. It's got movement now.
Ryan!
That scene took a while where Abby was, oh, Ryan, come meet us there, da-da-da. And I forget who said it, but just said, "What, Abby, what if you just say, Ryan?" Like, and then that's it. That's all you can say. This is our first night shoot. This is the second week of shooting. The first week of shooting was all the bullshit in like the city and driving around and getting there and stuff like that. This was the second week, and I think it was the first day. We shot 3 days a week, like I said, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is Tuesday night, and we had no permits. That's me, right there. You can kind of see that there. Yeah, I'm the one that shakes the bush. One of my multiple appearances in this. But we had no permits. We're shooting up in the, Spain Canyon. And then we managed to move the RV into my backyard, and we shot all the interior RV stuff with literally in my backyard. Even them running up to it.
Why are you still fucking filming, Abby? Seriously?
Ryan is still out there. You guys, we just left. I know.
Good sound design by Mark. Well shot too. I don't know who shot a lot of the stuff inside the RV. I think Abby did a lot of it.
Abby, get away from the door!
Ryan!
Yeah, I think she did. Because I don't remember seeing Daniel in there.
Ryan, I've been looking for those campers. There's something on
I'm
the
looking for
fucking
those
roof.
campers.
Is that
See,
you?
and then Ryan shows up just after that
You
thing.
promised that wasn't you. You promised.
We gotta get the fuck out of here. What happened? There's something on the...
So now, any theories that the audience may have that Ryan's character is in on this, they now don't know what to think. Because did he just climb on top of the roof and smash it and scare him in the bush? Like, is he taking it this far? Is he that fucked up? I certainly love to play him like that. That was good. So this is an interesting part. We shot this scene. There is a scene of us. I just set the camera up, but it's still rolling. But you see it. It's just still, and it just wasn't really well acted. It was. I feel like maybe it was too scripted. Like we were trying to hit too many points on it and stuff like that. I don't know. It was late in the night. It just didn't work. So then come post time, I said to Howie, I was like, well, what if we just cut to black for 30 seconds and then we go in the booth later on and hash out an argument. And it worked.
Oh my fucking...
Oh God.
Gosh.
So we again had no permits for this movie whatsoever.
Ashley?
We were shooting right there as on a park, LA Park
Ashley.
trail.
Honey, do me a
Not
favor.
allowed to be there.
Shut
This
the
day
fuck
was
up.
pretty stressful for myself because not only is it some of my more emotional stuff I have to deliver, I also had to deal with the stress of people walking by, cars driving by, park rangers showing up, the police showing up like 3 times. I forged paperwork, and I'll point out the very last. Actually, it's the very last shot that we did there, and it's in the movie. I'll point it out to you. But then it was either we move or people start getting locked up. So I like that voyeuristic look. I thought, let's just hold on that. Have Abby and Ashley have a moment. Ashley does a great job in this scene. This was the second day of shooting. First week. Second day of shooting. And this first day we worked on the trails. And this is one of the very first scenes that we shot. And remember, I know these people before. They're actors. I don't know how good or bad they are. After shooting this scene, I knew Ashley could act, and I was happy about that.
Stop. Just God.
She does a really good job.
Calm the fuck down.
Shut up, Ryan.
Is that the fucking camp?
And her doing such a good job helped me to act better, I feel like, in response to that, because I'm great at being an asshole.
All right, so actually his pack is gone. So just like I said, he got here and took his pack and went back to the city. Check it out.
What are you doing?
This is your classic. Gotta put this in there. They don't have cell phone reception.
Service? Are you retarded?
Ryan, she might get a little pocket somewhere.
A pocket?
You're
guys are
both retarded.
Oh my god, you're not gonna get services.
Such a dumb line, but
Right, we're
I
back
love
to
it.
the city. This is
It's
okay.
a little weird that he just left without telling any of us.
No, it's not weird because I know him. This is exactly what he would have done.
Shut up, Ryan.
Like, it's a very cliche written scene, but the girls do a great job of pulling it off.
Help you guys out.
I had the comfort of not having to be in front of the camera, which is nice. And then here we go. Here's another great, well-performed scene by Abby. This was just shortly after we shot that scene with Ashley. This is further up the trail. And this is the first time Abby really had to, show some emotion. And we were at that early stages of dating, and I got to push her and say what I wanted to her, and it was fun. It was fun acting with her. She does a really great job.
Nobody wants to fucking hear you talk right now. Your voice is annoying. How are you not worried a little bit about your friend Brett?
Abby, hey, dumb fuck. I've known Brett 10 fucking years, okay? He does this shit all the time.
Really? Really? All right. Okay.
And then the classic line, "Eat a
You're
dick."
fucking dick. You're filming all this stupid shit.
That was
What
like kind of
fucking
a
use
running
for it
joke
for?
that
Brett's
day
not
on
even
set.
here.
All the documentaries, dipshit.
On Brett,
Maybe the
dipshit.
rest of that
Brett's not
week.
here.
You know, the subject of the documentary doesn't always start
Eat a
out with-
dick. Fucking shut the fuck up. Shut up.
No one has also ever mentioned how these 4 kids, and then turns into 3, are able to carry all this massive amounts of gear in just a few tiny little bags. But that's the brilliance of cinema.
Ryan, what's wrong with you? Are we just gonna leave, Brett?
Oh my God, will you shut up about Brett? Jesus! Can you go 5 minutes without talking about your fucking pretend boyfriend?
So the trail we shot all the hiking stuff on is some trails up in Topanga Canyon. This was actually the furthest up on the trail. This is down back at the
Get out of
RV
the way,
place
Ashley.
again.
What the fuck is that? You fucking joking.
So
I'm gonna fucking murder
we
you.
had to show, I had to come up with some way to show that this RV was trashed without actually trashing it, because I couldn't afford to really trash an RV. I had this thing rented for, 4 or 5 days, and couldn't exactly bash it up. So
Go outside, I'm gonna find whoever's doing this.
I think it was Brett, Ashley, and Howie. A bunch of people all left, and I don't know if it was, I don't know who was back there. It was myself, maybe
Ashley, get out of the way
Brett,
before
I think
break
it
this
was.
fucking camera over your
But we're like, why don't we just take some bushes and some branches and pop up the hood and drain the tire and put some water. It looks like the radiator fluid's running out and stuff like that. And, you know, throw a shit ton of leaves inside. It's amazing what you can do with set design with just by cluttering things, you know. If you want things to look chaotic, throw a bunch of shit on the floor. It looks chaotic. I do that again later in the basement or in the warehouse. I'm sorry. This is all me. This is my big scene. I was really kind of nervous to deliver on this. But so I go and I find, spoiler alert for those that haven't seen it, I find Brett's foot. And simple gag, man. Oh, that's me running naked, actually, by the way. That was a pickup. So that's me yelling at me running naked. So that was funny. Simple gag. Took Brett's shoe. I went to the butcher, got a cow, like calf bone or whatever, sawed it in half. Got some chicken breasts, like duct taped those to around the bone, shoved it in the shoe, poured some fake blood over it, and then I shaved off actual leg hair off of my leg and super glued it to the top. It doesn't really read too much, but it's on there. And that looks like a pretty disgusting, like, semi-weird, believable cut-off foot. And then I made myself throw up here. Yeah. So again, we if you guys look up the budget for this, it was it says like $12,500, whatever. That's probably actually even more than what I put into any significant day of shooting. But it's just being clever, and then shit like that little gag cost us nothing, and I was like, we need something when he comes out to remind him that, like, it's getting serious. So I was like, what if we just stamp his backpack and it's bright orange? Nobody's gonna miss it. So again, it's all about coming up with the most clever ways possible to knowing your medium, and knowing I knew we were doing a found footage film. I knew we could get away with a lot of shit, and you know, it just had to be a few moments on screen and little passes.
Ryan, what are you doing?
So you can do things cheaply, and if you just take 2 seconds to think about it, the effects usually turn out pretty cool.
Lock the door. I love you.
And then Ryan's gone. All this voiceover, that's my backyard again. All this voiceover was done afterwards. We had one day in the ADR booth, you know, to fill in lines and add lines where we needed them, stuff like that. Abby did a really good job. It's really hard. I mean, acting A is hard. B, it's extremely hard to ADR lines in. She did a really good job there.
So much better.
Oh, and both the girls do an amazing job in the scene. This is one of those moments where you have to have, you know, the boys are gone. It's down to our 2 girls, and, you know, for the most part, they both pretty much make it to the end. So this is like the start of the second part of the film, where we now follow these 2 girls, and stuff's not good, and they know it's not good, and they do a really, really good job of just this quiet calmness that I think really portrays out to the audience that stuff's about to get bad, and they know it, but they're afraid to show it, I think.
We should probably turn the light off to save the battery. No. There's no reason to have it on.
I don't want to sit here in the dark.
If there's something out there, it's gonna see the light.
No, Abby, I don't want to sit here in the dark.
It's gonna be fine. It's just better to have it on.
And this is great.
Holy fuck!
Holy fuck! Actually, yeah, she was good. that was actual banging on the RV. Obviously not the sound and stuff like that. So let me explain the RV scenes to you real quick. I got this RV. This was never in the script of this rear view monitor thing, stuff like that. I got the RV and then I happened to realize that it had that. That thing barely worked. It only worked for about 5 seconds at a time. But I thought, how brilliant would it be to have a shot of, like, you see the monster coming at it from the back on that monitor. You see it blinking off and on up there. That's what it did after 5 seconds of actually working. Then it did that. We were fortunately able to add it in as an effect of, like, oh, the RV's getting crashed. And then it landing on the hood is like a huge scare. This is where the monster really starts to take over. The Zerk, as they're called, Zerk. That's what the military institution, the facility, dubs them. For Berserker. This was a tough night of shooting. This is my backyard again, and Daniel took some nasty falls. He has a pretty massive bruise, or had a pretty massive bruise. He landed on the exact same spot twice in a row. Poor guy. I mean, they were just running blind in the night. These girls, from this moment on, they really... I think the sound design does a great job of heightening the kind of moments that they were going through. I mean, this is no bullshit, like, tough stuff that they were doing. We had nobody. There was maybe 5 of us on set that night. I'm one of them that covered in corn syrup and blood, you know what I mean? So these girls did a really great job. We put them through the ringer. And I think in terms of horror movie girls, they rank right up there, you know. They do a really, really great job. I was really proud of them. Quite disgusting. Those were half fake intestines, half real intestines. Which, by the way, now we get to see more of Scott Dawson's work. He did all the effects and stuff like that. He did that effect, which was really well done. And did most of the effects in the underground warehouses and stuff. And actually was the creature for a lot of shots. We cut to black again. I'm a big fan of letting the sounds dictate what's going on in the audience's head, you know. I don't mind cutting to black for periods at a time and just let the audience kind of sit there in that awkward moment, especially when you see this type of movie in theaters or whatever. Those kind of moments can really... You know, everybody tends to shift in their seats when stuff like that happens. I kind of like it. So this is the horse stables. This is maybe about 300 yards from my house in Topanga. They have these horse stables, and they have these massive arenas where they train horses to jump and run and ride and stuff like that. And at nighttime, they have these massive lights that light up these huge arenas. And of course, it's right by my house. I'm driving by it every day. I said, well, why can't I get that? So I went and talked to them, and they were very, very nice and allowed us to shoot there for a few hours a night. And we get this. And it didn't really cost us anything. And that type of production value, when you have absolutely no money... you got to look at locations. You got to look at what you can do, and that's my mother-in-law doing that voice, by the way. in our Michael Bay trailer shot. Extremely well shot by Daniel. And here's where the effects start to come into play. How he did all of the bullet holes, and he did all the editing, you know, basically. And it starts off good. I don't know if it's too much throughout the entire thing. We could have held back on it, but you know, we're definitely starting to jump the shark right here with the sound effect of the military coming in. And of course, you don't see any of them, but you know something's going down that you weren't expecting. Yeah, the girls are just great in that. I mean, look at that. They are, like, all the cuts and stuff like that on their knees, those were all real cuts. Like, they really just battered themselves, man. At the time, I didn't think it was that amazing, but when I look back on it, it's pretty fantastic. I wish this could have played out better. You know, as I wrote it, as I had it, I wish it could have been a little bit creepier. Maybe it was too much of a cinematic moment, and didn't work for the found footage genre. But I guess it's a good scare. And then we cut on Ashley's butt. So now we're to these second stables, about, I don't know, 80 miles away in Palmdale, Lancaster area. And again, man, it was, we found this location. The reason we found this location was the guy that I found who had the treehouse location, which is the next one coming up. This was his daughter's ranch, and we went and scouted it and had this army truck, and we're like, hello, we got to put that in there. And then just everything about it was just had this, like, up there was this entire loft, and just had this real creepiness, this authentic realism to it of, like, I mean, we did no set design, zero set design. This was exactly how it looked like when we came into it. I just came up with a scene to build some tension, and it was shot extraordinarily well. I'm ducking just behind camera, or I think Owen's ducking behind camera right there. He was feeding the horse. What was this horse? Like Goliath or something like that. Because we thought, how great would that be, right when they walk in, there's the horse and the big scare. But this is all real, man. This is all their set. I mean, how he crunched the blacks, so it helps you don't see too much of it. It's definitely got some grittiness to it, but this was all real. Free production value is a good thing. And then, yeah, so classy. You think he's coming out the door, and then this is actually me grabbing Abby's feet underneath. Right. Now. Very well edited. Just add to the grittiness, the rawness. Then this is a series of about 5 different shots. When the horse reeled up, we actually had Ashley on the opposite side of the fence, so she was, because it was on a hill, so she was at the lower part. We put the horse on the higher part, and then we had a horse trainer off camera that could make it real. We just capture that moment. So now is when you start to think like there's multiple Zerks coming after them. At least that was my mindset. I don't know if it reads exactly right now. It definitely reads later once they get underground, but that's what we were going for. So here's the treehouse I mentioned. Again, I have no idea how I found this place. This is all real. It was a spooky place, that's for sure. How he fucked with the luminance and really fucked with the editing right here, because in the raw footage you can see the mic attached to Ashley's back because she was laved up. So clever way of hiding it. Again, stuff you can get away with when doing a found footage movie if you're consistent. And then, yeah, that was a real bat. We thought about going that way underneath. I mean, this is the actual underneath this treehouse. It's a really spooky thing. Howie and I checked it out during the daytime, and it was fucking scary. But like in there and to the left was this like underground like cellar compartment thing, and it would have been nice to try to do something there, but it wouldn't have worked. Again, this was still in our first wave of shooting, and this was when I still thought they were people dressed up as monsters. And so I thought, like, oh, they'll stumble across this whole society of them and blah, 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 and caves. And I was looking for a way to get into a cave. And then I'm telling you, literally everything changed when I found that warehouse location. Yeah, the only thing we added here were these jars of salt, which I got from, I randomly stopped at a garage sale in Topanga because I was looking for jars, creepy jars to put salt in, because again, I was thinking of these people would have, keep salt to preserve like human meat and stuff like that. So I stopped at a garage sale, and a lady at the counter, when I was asking for jars, she's like, oh, I have like hundreds of baby food jars, you can have them. And I was like, what? And so I went down the street, and sure as shit, she had tons of them. She gave them all to me, and that's what's in the movie. It was pretty crazy. So when the movie opened, I talked about how we wanted to show mirrors to show that the people are still filming it. So right now is an essential time, after all the craziness that's happening. You still have to see that it's still them holding the camera. So this is a brilliant opportunity for us to show that. Again, well, right there, that shot's amazing with all the mirrors. And then this is Daniel actually holding the camera, and Abby's literally holding on to his arm as tightly as she can, and they're kind of dancing with each other almost. And then I said, hey, we're going to go over here. That's Abby's arm, reaching the glasses. You got to look up at the mirror because it's slanted, but they do a great job of Daniel stepping back and Abby stepping in front, and you just see her legs. So, I mean, it's flawless. You can't tell she's not filming this. And again, that mirror on the right. So those two did a great job. Daniel did an amazing job filming this scene, especially. And then we're about to see my first cameo as the Zerk. This is me in the costume jumping out. Quite fun. So those stairs were not in the treehouse. This is, I think this is the first night of after we took the break and reevaluated everything. We found this. Well, Howie's friend had this location in his like backyard in his basement or something like that. It's really fucking weird. I don't know what it is, but this is where I decided to just start. You know, let's just go for it. Let's just really, really go somewhere that the audience is not expecting, that we have not really fully explained before, because who gives a shit? You know, let's make it entertaining. That's what I was going for. I was going for entertaining. So, and then this is at the warehouse. The warehouse that was this is on the side right there. We had 2 nights of shooting, 2 days of prep. No, 1 day of prep, 2 days of cleanup afterward, 1.5, something like that. It was a brutal, intense time, and like I was coming up with shit on the fly, and these poor girls had no idea what was going on, but they did a great job. Everybody really kind of showed up here today. Well, this week. So these are 8 acres of warehouses that were in Linwood, California. And Shelley and Phil Krenitz, the people that own the place, extraordinarily helpful, extraordinarily sweet and nice. And I owe them a lot of gratitude, because without this location, I don't know what evidence would have been. So this is where we start adding more characters. We actually auditioned for all these people. Andrew Barinhorst, very great actor, physically very big, tall, like the guy's close to 7 feet, if not that, and then we put him on like 4-inch boots. He was massive against Ashley, so young. This is me coming up. Breather, that's what we call all the guys in the gas mask, breathers, because they were... So I will point out that scene right there with that Jeep turning away. Evidence 2 takes place, it is kind of a prequel sequel, almost happens during the same amounts of time as this one does. Basically takes place all in this underground facility. Remember that Jeep shot, because those 2 characters in the Jeep are actually the 2 main characters in Evidence 2. So, we can look forward to that. That was me again, jumping in the back of the truck, getting shot and falling out. Pretty hard. These are, friends, everybody else on crew that wasn't doing anything at that moment. Put some blood on you, get in there, and let's do it. My friend Owen did a good take right there. He bashed his elbow up really bad. So again, I guess I'll talk set design. Everything there is that TV was already in there. We just played a DVD of some DNA things going. Brilliant effects work by Scott. And then I got a bunch of, I think I had 6 lights that just flashed red that I could hang from the ceiling. They had like this little magnet on them. I just put those in the hallways. And, and in the rooms, and this room especially, I was pretty impressed with just like, I hung 6 lights. We took some telephone wire from the ceiling, tied it to the rafters ahead, flipped over chairs and took all that piece of paper, all like old scripts of mine or something like that, and just pulled it out the drawers and threw paper around. That's my laptop showing a DNA strand on the thing. Very, very, very simple stuff, but it looks, like we actually had somebody come in there and do it. I put that ladder there. I was like, why not put a ladder in this room? That might be weird. Where's the ladder going to go? I don't know. Then we start adding the battery empty. And then we introduce Risden Roberts. Great actress. She did an amazing job. The poor thing probably had to sit around hell of a lot longer than she was expecting. But she's great. And actually, in terms of evidence too, her character has a little bit more of a plot line in it. So we get to see where she kind of comes from and stuff like that. But she didn't know any of us. She auditioned. She nailed it. She came out, and she does a really great job. This is a worm on a string. Yeah. Again, I'll just throw in papers around, throw a bloody shirt here, throw some scientific writing on a chalkboard, you know. And then the lab. This was, it was a very, very, very large space. That hallway is actually like double, if not triple the size that we're going into. The room is massive. And I just said, why don't we take some plastic and hang it from I staple it into the ceilings and to make a kind of tunnel. That and little post effects, and it looks fucking great. It's Abby's friend Julie Gibbons.
I had no idea they'd gone this far.
Doing a little pregnancy chick thing. It was pretty funny. We had actually Andrew, the tall guy from before, he's operating the hand underneath. And then a little CG blood. You get the idea. And that's my brother-in-law, Brandon. He's really nervous about doing this. He said, you'll be fine. That, by the way, the reason he was nervous was that we only had one take on that because there's so much blood and it was like kind of intricate to do and stuff like that. So he just didn't want to mess it up. So we had this massive space, and literally it was just like, how can I connect? How can I use as many areas of this space? That's me again, by the way. How can I use as many areas of this space, utilize them, and still have some action, still make it interesting, still build a story around it? And I was literally going from room to room to room and just saying, you know, that's what we can do here. The reason that we came up with this was when we first went to scout out the location, there was this massive area, and for some reason there was a chair sitting right there. Nobody in it. And Howie and I both agreed, we were like, that's a creepy visual. So, you know, we added it in.
Stay where you are. Put your gun down. Don't move. Down onto the floor.
That's all of us. That's my Jeep that I was driving. Drove it out. And I think I'm the one that gets tackled by the monster in there. But, yeah, we were just, you know, let's throw everything we possibly can at them. A grenade. Great editing there. That was very good. That's Ashley's leg. I was like, oh, why don't we just make Risen lie down and put Ashley's leg on top? It looks like she got blown in half. It works. That's Abby's brother. Just got plastered. That's me in the rafters coming up. Yeah, I don't know what to say, man. We just tried to make it, I just wanted something going on at every time the camera turned. Every time it panned, it turned. Something. You know, like I said from the beginning, I didn't want it to just end up dropped in the corner. So now we come to our Jurassic Park moments, where the T-Rex, you know, needs to be seen again at the end of the movie. At its core, Evidence is a monster movie, and we felt like the audience would be disappointed if you didn't get to see the monster one last time. And then there's the unexpected. That's me. That just got to blow off Abby's head. And then we open up into complete chaos, world ending. No, those are real helicopters. Those are not CG'd helicopters. That was a real stuntman jumping. Through its editing and sound design, I mean, this scene looks a lot more rambunctious than how it actually portrayed. There's about 4 of us there. I mean, that's me that just took the spill. These are real helicopters. We had flyover that day, and then I rented that little helicopter for Ashley to run and get in, cut across the creek, and we went back and forth. I didn't know exactly how to end this movie. Went through a lot of different scenarios. When I found out that it was possible that I could get a helicopter for my budget, I said I gotta have a helicopter. Once I got the thought into my head, I couldn't get rid of it, and so there it is. You got a helicopter. The ending of a $12,000 movie. And then we get to the ending credits, which Howie did. He did a good job. And Mark Hailstone did the sound design, who did an absolutely amazing job. All the extra footage that's in these ending credits, with the exception of the stuff that's in the helicopter there, we shot on a Saturday evening in a garage, and didn't take much. We just, Howie wanted to piece together some things, put them together, and through his editing and stuff like that, we got a pretty killer ending credit sequence, which actually inspired a lot of the script for the sequel. So the sequel pretty much takes place in the underground facility. So I guess I will talk about the distribution, or what has happened, of evidence as we watch the film come to a close. There's been a tremendous amount of support for this movie in the online community. It was released March 12th, 2012 in the UK. Within a week, it was pirated and shot up the charts in terms of popularity, which was really exciting at the time. And it was screened by Paramount. They called me up, and this was shortly after Paranormal Activity and Dread Central, who Uncle Creepy did an amazing job helping us out in the early stages. He was a big advocate and a big fan of the movie, and he got us in touch with Paramount, and we went and screened it for them, and they didn't quite get the ending, which I get, it is what it is, but it's definitely high moments, and was hot for a while, and then just kind of disappeared and got distributed internationally in lots of different territories. Hasn't made any money for the people that put all the hard work in for it, but with this DVD, with this domestic release with Osiris, it hopefully can get in more people's hands than they can actually learn more about the movie than just some sort of film that was kind of thrown together. I mean, the stuff I read and see on the internet is very flattering, and the people that are fans of this movie and the people that are such advocates for it and defend it is amazing to me. And to be honest, if it weren't pirated, I don't know if we would have had those type of diehard fans. And so it's definitely catch-22. This movie has been quite the experience. It's been 4 years now in the making that I've been, at some point in my day or another, I've been constantly concerned about it or thinking about it. But I am very proud of it. I'm proud of everyone that was involved, for the most part. And I'm just really excited to deliver for, another one, to deliver something else and get something more. I'd love to explore this world of evidence even more. I think it's pretty cool. I like the found footage genre. It's not solely what I'm going to do is found footage and horror, but I do appreciate the genre and I do like it. And yeah, I think it'd be fun to do more. That's Daniel, by the way, the guy with his shirt off. That's our DP, Daniel Wall, doing an amazing job of being a scary zombie. So that is Evidence. And yeah, well lit. Scott did a good job on the costume. I think that was Scott or somebody in the outfit. He had this alien mask that we put on. That's what we did the close-up on. That was not the, creature's face throughout the whole thing. He didn't really have a face, but we thought, we'll throw that in there. I don't know who any of those people are. Yeah.
Stand by. I hear noise.
Well, everybody, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate you guys. Well, everybody, thank you very much for listening to the commentary. I hope it was full of information for you. If you had any questions about how we put this little movie together, again, I'm really proud of it, and just really excited to see what comes out of the future. So that's it. Take care.